Howdy do. Today we're going to, over the course of a few days for me, but for you, today in this video, we're going to take apart, or take out an EJ255 engine. This should work for most engines of the same platform and year type. Yeah, we're going to go through it step by step. There's plenty of videos showing you how to do it, but we're just going to try and make the most easy to follow thing ever. So let's get to it. I might do some things in weird order, but I'm gonna do all the things and show you all the things, so let's do it. Alrighty, so first thing we're gonna do, I'm being lazy so I haven't jacked up the car yet, but I don't need to jack the car up to do this part. I'm going to drain the coolant first. So right under here, would be, if you're looking at the car, this is on the left side of the radiator. At the bottom, this is the drain hose, or I mean drain cap. So we got our little dish right here. So we got our dish right here, and then we're just gonna stick our screwdriver up in there and let her loose. Alright, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna gut up top and you're gonna take the caps off of your radiator fills, and then it'll start draining faster. Alright, so let me show you. So if you're looking at the front of the car right here, way at the bottom, that's where the drain cap is going to be on this side. You'll see it. And then on this car specifically, we've got 1, 2 coolant, and then you got this. These all are in the coolant system. So open these two up at least, and that will get rid of the suction and let the coolant start draining free. And yeah, there you go. Alright, so you might be able to hear the coolant still dripping away out of that drain plug. If you want it to go faster, down here on this side, we have the coolant return hose, this big one down here, and you could pop that off. It's pretty hard to get off, especially if you've never, if it's never been messed with before. So I'm just gonna let it drain some more before I start messing with more coolant hoses. But while that's happening, let me set you down here. While that is happening, I will tackle some easy stuff up here. So first thing, I'm gonna do the battery. So when you take out a battery, usually negative, take the negative out first, and the positive. It's just 1 bolt on each. Usually you'll have these this hook mechanism in here that you just have to loosen the bolts on and pop that out. That keeps the battery in. I'm gonna take that out. I am going to take the intake out as well. This one's an aftermarket one, so it's a little different. So there's a bolt down here, and then there's just some hose clamps. Yours will be hose clamps as well, but you'll have an air box instead, and so that one will be mounted probably somewhere around here, and then maybe you'll have multiple bolts down there. So take off the air and the battery. Let's do it. All right, if you can hear it, the thing's still pissing coolant. So yeah, that drain plug is really small. So I got the battery out, I got the air intake out, and it's still draining coolant. So what I'm gonna do now is I will take this thing off, this little guard thingy, and then we're gonna work on the alternator and taking this part of the harness off. Let's do it. Alright, so I took that shield thing off. It was just 1 bolt right here, and then it has a little pushy Madoo that goes into here. So after the bolt's out over here, you just pull straight up and it'll pop it out of here. So behind here, we've got the alternator, we've got the AC compressor, and we've got the power steering. So the power steering and the alternator both run off the same belt. There's your pulley harmonic Madoo down there. So that's all one system, and then the AC compressor has its own belt driven to it, because the AC compressor does not always run. Obviously, it only actually runs when you turn on the AC. makes sense, right? So we're gonna pause on here real quick because I'm gonna start taking this wiring harness off, and I'm gonna peel away back here. So we've got our plug for our alternator, and then the hot line right there, and then I don't know what specifically, but then we got our AC right here, little plug, and then we're gonna mess with this air pump. You might not have one of these, but we're gonna mess with that after this. So let's just get these off. All right, awesome. So we've pulled all these attachments off here. So all it is, this clippy right here, you just push down and pull out. I don't know if all of them come with this clamshell cover, but you just pop this collar off here, and then the top you push in and pull off like that. And then you just take your bolt off of your alternator, and then just preferably put the bolt and washer back on there to keep track of it. There's two tabs, one right here and the other one right here, which you're just going to use a small flathead to pull the clip away and bust that off. And then obviously you just push down and pull out for this plug for your AC compressor. So next up is this air box thingy. This is an air pump. It's only for emissions. It only even runs when your engine is cold to throw more oxygen at the mix coming out of your car. So all we got to do, so we've got our power plug for it up here. This is just another push in and pull out connector, and then we've got two bolts, one right here and then the other one right behind the dipstick. You know, so pull out the dipstick and manipulate that if you need to help you reach down in there. So yeah, let's get this off, and then it connects to a hose that wraps around the back of the engine right here. So you'll just take some pliers, pop this connector, and just pull that boot back. Do it. I'm not a mechanic, so this isn't technically a pro tip, but get yourself a some sort of extendable, or you know, like this bendable magnetic thingy-majig, so you can pull out bolts without being worried about dropping them. It will save you a lot of hassle. Yeah. Alrighty, so we got our air boy out. So there's those two screws, connector, and then hose goes on right there. Awesome. Now we can just pull our thingy-majig, our piece one of spaghetti, underneath this AC hose we have here, and boom, we're free of that side. Yeah, I didn't put this in, but this car specifically has a sub in the back, and so it's got its own inline thing, and you know, so your stuff might look a little more simplified, hopefully, than this, but yeah, that's where it is. All right, so next what I'm gonna do, I'm going to take the reservoir out. Well, you could get away with keeping it, but I'm gonna take it off because, you know, it's pretty simple. So 1, 2, 3. I lied, there's one more hose that comes out of the back. Alrighty, so we got our connectors off. So this smaller coolant hose goes to the metal fitting right here. The bigger one goes to the top plastic fitting right here. Someone put a worm gear clamp, preferably don't use worm gear clamps. So this one back here, a word of caution, this the nipple thing is super long compared to, you know, other stuff, so make sure you have this all the way back, because I popped it off to about here, like right near the end, and was really fighting. I'm like, dang, this is a tough hose. No, it's not, it's just a long connector. So yeah, anyways, and then the bolt in the side right here, and then it'll just pop off this mount right here, and then it'll leak coolant everywhere, so watch out for that. Alright, so I took the coolant reservoir off. So there's the top coolant pipe for the turbo, and then here's this bottom pipe that snakes behind there, and then the two hoses, remember, go across there. This bolt right here is the one that holds it in. I'm not really sure if I had to take that off, but we'll find out soon enough. Now what I want to do is I'm going to move on to the intercooler up here. So let's look here. We'll see if I find any more bolts, but I've got the two top coming out of the cold side of the turbo, and then we've got our blow off and something else, and then there's worm gear down there, and then some other things. We can also take this off here. This is the vacuum line for the brake booster, so that's an air line, so you don't have to worry about fluid going anywhere. But yeah, let's start getting this dewormified. Alrighty, I've got the intercooler right here. I've got it out. I want to show you this, guys, this for just a minute after this, but let me set this on the ground real quick. I'm going to show you how it comes out. So right here on this bracket arm thingy, there's going to be a bolt with bushing on it, and you're going to just undo that out of the I believe it's the blow off, the turbo blow off. You're just going to undo this hose and pop it off. And then this one right here, I think it's a vacuum line that comes out of the top of the blow-off valve. So that's what you got on the right side if you're looking at the vehicle. On the left side, so this is the cool side coming out of the turbo, which goes into the intercooler, and then it will go into the intake back there. So I've plugged it up just so that nothing falls into the turbo. So we got two bolts, these two bolts right here, and then this is going to be on the right side on the one on that bracket over there. So yeah, and then on the turbo itself, on the intercooler itself, look at this real quick. So that's where the small vacuum line comes out, and then here's where the bigger hose attaches, and then, you know, two bolts there. The last thing is going to be the little boot for the intake. It's got, this one has worm gears. I'm not sure if it originally comes with those, but you know, loosen one or both of them up, and then you can pop the whole thing out. It'll just lift right off. The one thing to be careful about, we can see here someone screwed it up big time, but one of these little marks, I tried to straighten out a little, but one of these little marks of the fins being bent was from me pulling on it. So just be careful when you get your hand under there to pull on it, that you don't grab the back of the fins and smash your cooling stuff. So there it is. So now this next part you guys can skip, but I want to show you something, because the reason why I'm pulling this engine is because it is seized, and I don't know why, but I bought the car like this with it seized. The previous owner didn't want to deal with having to do stuff. He allegedly didn't know the engine was seized. But let's look at this here. So when I pulled this off, I only saw this clamp, so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll pull that off, and the whole thing came out way easier than I thought. And it was because this one that actually goes on to you know, into the intake for it was completely tight, and it's shoved on like this. Someone didn't get it on all the way right, and there's a bunch of oil in there, and so I don't know where exactly that came from, but there is, here, I'll show you. Behold my hand. There you go. Got a bunch of oil in there. I'll have to do some research on this and, you know, pull the engine block apart further, because, you know, depending on where that oil's coming from, I don't want to slap a new engine in there and be screwing it up too. I don't know if this is just because the guy doesn't have like a catch can or something, so maybe it just needs a catch can, but that will need some investigating. So what we're about to do is take our fuel lines out. There's 3 of them right here. 2 of them are actually the fuel lines, and then there's an evaporator line. I'm not sure which one's is which, but the top and bottom one has these special plastic fittings on them that with the flared part of the connector to the actual block, when they barb in basically on the connector. So there's a special tool you can buy. You can also just shim it. There's a little tab right here, or a little notch right there. On either side, so this side and this side, there's gonna be one of those barbs on each side. And so all you gotta do is slide something in there to get the barb to disengage. Some people, if you were gonna do this before taking everything else apart, what you would wanna do, allegedly what some people do, is you take out in here, in your fuses, you take out your fuel relay and then you try cranking the engine and it'll get the fuel line to drain. This engine seized, so I can't do that. So I'm just gonna put some towels under here, just to make sure you don't get fuel all over the place. All right, so we've got our fuel hoses off now. So there's a look for you at what the barbs look like. So yeah, there they are. Yeah, and then here you go. That's what the inside of one looks like. All right, one more thing with these fuel lines. I cut the fingers off of some disposable gloves and just rubber banded them over these so that I don't keep smelling fuel all over the place and, you know, having this stuff vent your fuel lines into your garage if you're like me and working in a closed garage. Anyways, so there's a little tip for you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the bracket off for the intercooler that just holds the right side of the intercooler if you're looking at it like this. So we're going to take that off with 2 bolts and then we're going to mess with the front up here. Let's do it. All right, awesome. So we've got that turbo, the intercooler mount off. So it's just these 2 larger bolts. That one we took off earlier to actually get the intercooler off. This thing also has a clip on it. This clip is for the brake booster vacuum line, so that's there. So yeah. All right, so now I'm gonna work on the radiator a little before I do the stuff up here. So upper radiator hose, pretty simple, just clip here, clip there off of the engine block. And then the bottom one is the same, bottom one's over here. I already loosened these, but one clip there off the engine block, one down there off the radiator, pretty simple. The bottom one's kind of a pain to pull off. I mean, they're both kind of a pain to pull off. You know, I think they've been expanding and contracting from heat a lot, but you know, just give it the old go-getter. So yeah, you're gonna have one connector for each fan. They're kind of a pain in the butt. They're easier to tackle from the bottom side. It's just a little push connector, but like unlike other push connectors, they don't give you much leeway and space on the little clippy, so use a small flathead. So I'm gonna take the radiator out now, which I'm kicking myself for doing, but radiator is just those 2 bolts. Alrighty, so now the radiator's completely out, but cool, so we got a bunch of space. Technically you don't need this much space. You could do this with just the fan shrouds off, but I mean, I've never done this before, so yeah, we're giving ourselves all the space we can. So now going to focus on all this up here. So we start with the alternator. So if you'll notice here, the alternator is connected to this bolt right here, and then this whole thing right here is what is used to get tension into this belt that runs the power steering and the alternator. So what we can do is just drop this down a bit to get it a little loose, and then we can just pop this out, and then the alternator should just swivel down. So yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna mark where the this bolt is. I don't think it matters because we'll just, you know, get this tight again. But yeah, let's do it. All right, so we just got the alternator out. I have it right here on the ground. So let's talk about this thoroughly. So there is only 2 bolts that hold in the alternator. We have this one, which goes right into here on the left side. Once you pop this out, you can swivel the alternator down to get the belt off. And then on this side, there's a bolt you'll undo. So For reference sake, here's how the bolt, the bolt will be in there like this. It goes through here, it goes through the alternator, and then out to the other side, and there's this, this is basically the thing that keeps it on the other end. So you've got this thing here that, whoops, there's a little tab thing on the front that comes up, and that's to hold that plastic shield on that we took off way long ago. So I'm just gonna label, I drew on here which side is up, and threaded them back together just so that I know which side is which. It goes on the alternator, so on the alternator that goes through here. So obviously this is the top side of the alternator because our electrical connection is right there, and then behind that is our 3-pin thingamajig. And so this is right here is where the bolt goes through for the riser Madoo thingy. I'll probably take this out, but awesome. So we've got that out, and so now I'm gonna get the power steering pump out. I believe there's 2 or 3 bolts. Yeah, so there's one here, there's one here, and then the last one is right back behind this this gusseted bracket thingamajig there in the bottom. So let's do it. Woo! All right, we've got the powering steering pump disconnected. So yeah, it's the one bolt back here. I used 3 of these size extensions and a U-joint on the end for that one, and the other 2 just use a double extension, and then 1 bolt down there, 1 over here. And the one thing I didn't mention is this little connector here. It's literally just a one thingy-majiggy plug. You just push it in and pull it out. And so there's your power steering. So you can take this and flop it over. Basically, all you'd want to do is take this and basically throw it somewhere up here. For right now, I'm gonna leave it in here while I work on other things. Even though, you know, the lines can be kept like that, but just you know, try not to leave them like that. I'm just paranoid about it. But let's look at the bolts for a second. So this bolt is the one off the back. The one off the back, and then on the front, on the left side, those are the same size and length bolt. And they have a crush washer and a flat washer each. The one that comes off of the front right side right here is actually a lot longer. I don't know why mine's got some, I don't know if that's what red Loctite looks like. I've never seen what red Loctite actually looks like, but it came out pretty easy, so that goes to show you how long it's been in there if that's Loctite. Anyways, so just know that for this part, all 3 bolts are not the same length, okay? Just make sure you know that. And if you're doing this with your bumper off, you can use these holes to hold your bolts while you mess with stuff. Good to know. All right, so now we're gonna do the AC. All right, so I had something pretty funny just happen. So I was gonna meme it and break the bolt off and pull the harmonic balancer off to try and get this belt off, and I actually unseized the engine, which is pretty funny because when I was checking to see if the engine was seized in the first place, you know, I didn't use a breaker bar. I just used, well, I mean, I used a breaker bar, but not like a breaker bar. So, here, I'll show you. So I was trying to do this, but without this stick, and it's taken me quite a bit of force to do that, but oh yeah. Oh baby, that's great. So the engine does turn now. Great. I mean, it's still probably junk. I kind of want to put everything back together now and try and start it, but alas, if the engine was seized in the first place, this engine is in need of dire repair, or like being rebored at least before it runs again. So yeah, Anyways, let's get to it. Alright, bada boom. Got the belt cut off here. Obviously, if you have a different model year, you'll have a tensioner down here. I think they're down here that you can just unscrew and you know, not have to cut the cable off, so, or the belt off. So now that we've got that off, it's looking like one bolt here, one bolt here, one bolt in front, and then the mount here for the secondary air pump, it looks like it mounts into the AC right here and then one back there. So it looks like we can just pull this bolt and take the whole mounting bracket with and keep that on the AC pump. So I'll let you know if that's not the case, but I'm pretty sure it's just those 3 bolts and we should be good. Alright, so we've got 3 bolts out. So one here, and one here. So this little bracket here that connects the secondary air pump, that does not need to come off. However, there's one more bolt in the back, right there, if you can see it. Sorry. It's directly underneath these 2, like way at the bottom. There it is. That little guy right there. These are 14 millimeter. And so if we're thinking about this, all the bolts before this were smaller. So like if we could recall, the alternator was right here, it's housed right here, there's a bolt there, and this one here. Power steering pump, you know, came out with smaller bolts. This has bigger bolts, and you know, it's like, why is that? There's only the alternator, or I mean, the only belt that was attached to is the AC one. But you know, if we think about it, it's one, the alternator here is bridging a gap between 2 different brackets. But the most important thing is right here, this thing right here. This is a mounting bracket to pull up on when you pull the engine out. So this is one of your mounting points. Most people, I believe, mount somewhere back here, I believe, on the back side of the engine. So this is a mounting point, and that's why these are stronger, and it's, you know, intended with that right there. It's intended to be a point to pull the engine out at. So good to know. So after this is out, we will later down the road, we're going to put this mount back in without the AC compressor in it, but for right now we're just getting all the bolts out, making it easier to like actually get the AC compressor out of this mount. Alrighty, hello there. So we're back. I tried filming this yesterday, but then my battery died and I didn't have my other one to swap it out. So what did I do last? So I took the AC compressor out of its bracket, and then I've got the bracket back on, but with only the bolts aren't threaded all the way back. I need to do that. But so let's see, what does that look like? So as earlier, there's 4 bolts, 1, 2, number 3 way back there, and number 4 was the bolt that holds this right here, the secondary air pump bracket. So that's going to be your 4th of the bolts holding it together, and then you can pop this off, and then there's going to be 4 long bolts for these. The locations are 1, and this goes through here, that part, 2 underneath here, 3 under here, and 4 right here on the back side. So there's 4 total, and those bottom 2 go through the secondary air pump bracket. So that's how the bracket gets its stability. It's like, it's kind of 2 brackets in one. So that makes it kind of annoying because you have to remove the whole thing to get access to all 4 of those bolts. And it's kind of a pain because, for me anyways, these bolts were really in there. So it might help to have someone there with you to hold it for you. Like, you have to pop it up and over and have them hold it while you pop those free. But yeah, so if we just look here now, probably shouldn't pick this up like this, but if we just look like this, behold, the AC compressor can come completely out now. And so when we actually get ready to pull the engine, you can just pop that out and put it off to the side. All right, let's take a look at the up pipe, or the down pipe coming off the back of the turbo. So you've got this little bracket right here. I think this is for the heat shield. I'm not sure because there wasn't a heat shield when I got this car, so maybe I should look into that before trying to start it up. But this is gonna be back here like this, I believe. I think. Anyways, there's just gonna be 2 bolts, 1, 2, that go through here. Bolts with like actual nuts, so you'll have to wrench on one side and ratchet on the other, kind of thing. And then there's 2. There's this one right here, and then there's one exactly on the other side. And those are just nuts. So how it looks. So on the one on the back side, I've got just the nut off of it. The one on this side though, the bolt wanted to come, or the I guess it's a stud. The stud wanted to come with. So the side for the turbo is threaded, but the side, this is an aftermarket downpipe, so this might not apply, but the downpipe side is not threaded, so this can come out no problem. And so you only need to get the nut off, but I mean this one came with, so I'll just thread it back in, no problems there. But just keep that in mind when you're pulling the engine off, that the stud is indeed there, so you need to go forward a little before going up. But I mean, at the same time, I'm probably gonna pull the whole downpipe section off at wherever the next section bolts together in the exhaust, so that's not too bad at all. So yeah, 2 bolts with actual nuts on the top, 2 studs in the middle with just nuts that need to come off. If the stud comes too, so be it. And then the last 2 you're gonna have to get from the bottom. I believe there's only 2 more, but it's just 2 more bolts, maybe nuts on the bottom side, so nothing big, but we'll get it when we're under there. Hello again. So today, next up, what we're doing is just gonna take out the heater, the heater core hoses. So that's those 2 that just go straight into the firewall. So we just got those bands on them, so we'll back those off and then wiggle those off. Yeah. All right, so got both of the heater core hoses popped off. So they've got a little coupler. It's down in there. It's not that important, but it just holds the 2 hoses right next to each other. They are, if you've never had to replace them or had them replaced, they're pretty on there. So you are gonna need like some pliers or channel locks to just crack the hoses loose from the metal fittings. But after that, you should be able to pull them off by hand. I've had the radiator off of this thing for probably, at least 4 or 5 days now, and when I pulled the bottom hose off, excuse me, it still had some made some coolant start leaking out of the bottom of the lower radiator hose. So yeah, we got those off. Now I think what I'm going to do next is I'm running out of things to do before I jack up the engine and drain the oil and all that good stuff. So there's a couple more things up here, which would be the starter, the computer stuff, and then the anti-roll thing. I think it's just called the dog bone or wishbone something or other, but it's just this thing that bolts up here, and we just need that so that we can lift the transmission a little and get the engine out of there. So yeah, we're gonna do the computer next, or the big wiring harness. Let's do it. Alrighty, so we've got the engine harness plug detached from car side from the engine bay. So I put a glove over this because I didn't. So this is the side that goes to the ECU and all the stuff inside the car, and this is the side that obviously goes onto the engine itself. There you go. There's our plugs in there. Obviously keep them not too dirty. So with these, it's kind of interesting. So we got our bracket right here. There's two 10mm hex screws, screw-in bolts underneath this bracket. So you don't actually need to take the bracket off. I just needed to be able to see what was holding this on. So this is the end that is actually held onto the bracket. To get the ECU side out, all you got to do is just push this down and use like a screwdriver or something and pop it out like that. And then what you're going to want to do, if you don't want to take this off, under the bottom of this right here, there's going to be a little tab that so this thing slides on sideways, but the tab catches it, so you just need to wiggle a flathead in right under there, that tab in the middle, and just pop that off, and then it slides out this way, and then you'll be good to go. And then now the computer connectors are separate, and personally I'd recommend using some gloves or something just to keep the connectors clean while you're working in here, and so that you don't have some dumb electrical issue just because there's gunk in your prongs. So there we go. All right, we're over here on the starter side. We're gonna mess with the starter a bit. You've got to manipulate the top hose for your heater core, get it out of the way to get your wrenches and such in there. I'm gonna put that back so you can see what I'm looking at. So right up here, this is the top bolt for the there we go, the top bolt right here for the starter. On that there's going to be this, which is your ground, I believe. And then what else we can do from the top side, let's see that, not this one but the one next to it, there's going to be a cable coming off of it. I'm not sure what this is called. It's part of the starter, but it's like, I don't know if it's like a capacitor or whatever, but there's going to be, I think it's like a hot line, I don't know, but it's another power cable that comes off of the starter. You're just gonna pull the rubber thingy cover off of it. It's got like a battery style like rubber cap. Pull that off, undo the nut, and there's gonna be a washer behind it, so try not to lose that. And then this right here is gonna come off of there, and you can I'm just putting the bolt back on for now. Make sure though with electrical stuff that you take a wire brush or something to it, just clean it up before you put stuff permanently back together. And so that right there is these two wires, and so those two, boom, that's part of your wiring harness that goes up here, and it comes up here to the positive and negative of the battery. So cool there. Yeah, and then so there's going to be one more plug, I believe, and then there's going to be the bottom side bolt. So I'm going to tackle those from the bottom side. But yeah, so I'm looking at it, and running out of things to do on as far as the top side of dealing with this engine goes. All right, we're now underneath the belly of the beast. So what do we need to do while we're under here? So let's work through it from back to front, shall we? So for me anyways, I am going to be, I'm not going to do it yet, but disconnecting this whole downpipe section all the way back to there. So 2 bolts there, 1 bolt here, I believe. There might be a thingy-majig right here to watch out for, as well as the last turbo, one second, the last turbo stud So it looks like on the bottom side there's only one that I didn't get, so it looks like there's a total of 5 bolts, 2 on the top, 1 on the side, and then 2 on the bottom there and here. So yeah, there's those. Before the transmission gets pulled, before we pull the engine, I believe it's these 2 bolts. I'll have to look up if these 2 have to be loosened as well. They don't have to be taken off, they just have to be loosened. We don't need to go sky high to get our engine out. We just need to clear the motor mounts, which will be taken off at some point as well. Cool. What else? Some easy ones here. We've got the starter. So we've just got 1 bolt right here, this bolt right there to get taken care of. Sorry, I'm trying to find my light here. The bottom starter bolt, and then the clippy Mah tab on the back, and then the starter should just break my teeth and fall out. Then we have also got 2 bolts, one here, as well as here and here on the bottom side of the transmission. Now that's one thing I forgot to do, was take the top side transmission bolts off, but there's only mirrored on top, there's 2 on either side that I would have to deal with, so no big deal there. Yeah, I'm trying to save the structural things for last, as far as like transmission bolts, all that good stuff. So yeah, what else? All right, let's move up more, shall we? So on either side of the engine, I'm gonna have to, ooh, what the fuck? Okay, well that's interesting. I'll have to look into these. It looks like I've already got 2 bolts out here. One there, I'm not sure. Oh, actually, I think I have these bolts in a bag. It's a little suspicious though that they're in a bag. I don't know when those got taken out, so good to know at least that. I'm gonna censor that. Anyways, I'll look at this. Kind of looks like this is not the right kind of oil filter. At least I'm more familiar with shorter ones. I think the ones I bought are shorter than this, huh? Anyways, so on either side of the engine there will be ground straps. There's one. Also there's this O2 sensor down here, which clears very close to the frame. Not sure if you can take these out or not, but just be careful with that. Alright, now we're back over to the other side. There's our ground strap. Yeah, ground strap. And then, yeah, so I believe that's almost everything. I'm trying to think. In some models there's some other stuff to worry about down here, but I think that's it for this one. So I'm going to deal with the easy part first, which is the starter. So I'm just gonna pop that bottom bolt off, work it off, and try not to kill myself when I plop it out the bottom. Let's do it. Alrighty, so we got the starter out. Let me see if I can get some better lighting on it. So that hole right there is this big hole right here. So the starter comes out. Got the starter right down here. There. Oh, you can't see that, can you? I'll show you when I'm out from under here, but you just gotta take the bottom bolt off. There you go. Bottom bolt and the blade connector. There's nothing holding it. It's just friction. So you just wiggle that off the back, and boom, we got our starter out. Great. When you got that, examine the little gear pinion Mah. Make sure it's not cracky or shredded teeth or anything. So that's that. All right, so quick note on the starter here. So we've got it actually out. So with the starter, it has two different length bolts. The top bolt, so the one that you can get from the engine bay, is longer than the bottom bolt, which is obviously shorter. The threads are the same length, but well, maybe not, but just know that those bolts are different lengths. So yeah, and then so now I am going to go over to this side, and I'm going to try and do you can't see it, one sec, where's my, there it is. I'm gonna get that bolt off right there, yeah, off of the bottom of the thingamajig, the downpipe. Yeah, let's do it. Are we having fun yet? Alright, so I just took that bottom bolt out. You know, on this one, this aftermarket downpipe, there's not space really to use like a U-joint and stuff. So I just used just a wrench, old school, to get that bolt off. And then, so let's come down here. And the other two things I did: ground strap on the passenger side of the engine, right here into this exhausty Madoo right here, which comes off like this. I'm probably just gonna leave that dangling right there. And then on the driver's side, it's interesting because this one's a 10 right there. This side is a 10 millimeter, the other side's 12. But I guess it makes sense because the 12 goes into the exhaust shield. Here's the bolts from the two ground straps, one on either side of the engine. This is the passenger side, and this is the driver's side one. Yeah, and then next time we'll get into the transmission, or yeah, the transmission, the downpipe through that section that has the O2 sensor. We'll do those, and then the dog bone thingy up here, and the clutch fork, and then we'll do the transmission bolts themselves, like the ones that actually mount it to the engine. So I've just realized something very strange and interesting about this car. So this right here is the clutch fork. So your slave cylinder sits right in here. The little nub on the end pushes against this, engages and disengages your clutch. Apparently, on this model of transmission, allegedly, there is, this is a push type clutch. And apparently on the push types, you do not need to pull anything out. Pull. There's nothing that needs to come out to disconnect the engine from the, or you know, pull the engine off of the transmission. So if it was a pull type, I guess, there would be an access port right here behind where the starter goes. There'd be a plug, and you'd just undo that, and then you'd take a an 8mm, I believe, bolt, and you'd thread it in there, and then there'd be this like tube about this long that you'd be able to pull out there, and then you'd just pull up on this and it would come out. Apparently this transmission doesn't have that. Alright, so with that figured out, that doesn't need to happen, all we need to do now on the top side is get the transmission bolts on that side. The ones that hold the starter and also hold the transmission in. So on the far side, there's just going to be two transmission bolts, and then there's going to be the it's the dog bone. It's called like the roll, not anti-roll, but pitch. I think it's called a pitch stop. This thing right here, this bolt just needs to come out. No big deal there. And then we're basically done on the top side. So yeah. All right, so we're getting down to the wire here. I mean, I guess that involves urgency, which there really isn't at the moment. So never mind. So yeah, what we're doing now. So recall the starter bolts, two long bolts on that side of the transmission bell housing thing. So on this side, we've got 2 on the top here. We got one. Got one right. Jeez. We got one right here, and then the other one is right. Oh, geez, you can't see that. It's right next to the turbo. It's there it is. That one right there. Yeah, you just need to get those 2. I'm not sure if I can get that second one from the top side, but I'll try and do it. And then the rest of it, besides the dog bone, whatever Mah Hoi, that's it for the top side, really. Alrighty, so behold, so we got the bolts out, or we got them off. We got one of them out. Here's what it looks like. Let me turn my. There's what it looks like for you. I labeled it passenger transmission top. You know, you don't have to write on the bolt, but you know, just know where it comes from. So the other one, though, you can see it down there. For I have a clearance issue here. Hello, we're underneath the car again. So while we're down here, what are we doing? So we got a couple of things to address. Number one is the exhaust, the downpipe specifically. So recall we took those bolts off a while ago. So the only bolts holding it in are this one right here and those 2 big ones back there. A thing to note though is we do have a, oh geez, that right there, a sensor right here. So I believe last time I identified that it is I think this one right here. So there's a zip tie that someone put on here. Oh, the shadow's horrible. Okay, there's a zip tie right here. So I'm probably going to cut the zip tie and pop the connector out so that when I drop this whole thing, it doesn't, you know, we don't pull anything. I'm just going to double check here. Yes, it is this cable, in fact. And then so we can drop the downpipe. Yeah, so that'll be fun. So let's do it. All right, so we've got the downpipe out. So recall earlier, behold the turbo. There should be 3 studs. One of mine came out with the bolt. So there's 5 things to undo up here. And my bolt still won't come out, that's okay. But so you undo those, and then right here on this hanger there will be 1 bolt, and then back there your 2 big bolts. So now I have it out, and so now I can show you right here. So this is where that O2 sensor connects. What you have to do to take this one out is just take a small flathead screwdriver and this tab right here on this side. You'll just have to shove it underneath that, pop that up, and just pull it straight out. There's nothing to do on this side. So let me show you the male end of the connector here. So it's going to be in here like this. So on this side there's nothing to do, but on this side, see that barb right there? That's what's going to be underneath that thingy-ma-do. So you just shove your small flathead under there, pop it up, and pull it out. Easy money. And then, you know, so thankfully what's smart about this design is this hook right here. So if in theory all your bolts somehow came out, the downpipe would not fall out because of this, which is nice when you're taking it out by yourself so it doesn't fall on you. But yeah, just be careful lowering it down, and be careful that the connector, which snakes under this crossmember thingamajig, it just goes up through here, comes out on this side. Make sure you don't like get it mashed up in the shifter or something. But yeah, just make sure that as you're bringing that down, the connector doesn't get like caught on this corner right here. And yeah, so connector's safe, sensor is safe. Yeah, and then the exhaust, from here back, it's not really supported by anything, but you know, way back there it's pretty solid. So you know, if you want some comfort, you could, you know, put some baling wire, if you're going to have it out for a long time, put some baling wire, or just, you know, have something under here to support this. But if you wanted to wire it and then bring that, you know, throw some wire over the drive shaft up in there through the heat shield, you know, if you want some peace of mind about it, like getting bent or something. But anyways, so that's that for the exhaust. I'm going to pull it out of here, and then we're going to be working on these bolts and nuts that go through the bottom. There's 2 on each side, the bottom of the transmission housing. So let's do it. Alrighty, so we've got those 4 thingies out. So if we look under here, so right here, right there, it's going to be a stud, or like a bolt. Sorry, a bolt. Here will be a nut, and then a mirrored on the other side as well. Bolt and nut on the lower stud that comes out of the back side of the engine. In mine, I guess someone lost something, because so my passenger side one, oops, it's just some generic, that they needed to put like washers on it to like space it correctly. This is what your studs will probably look like. So yeah, I mean, they got the length right with that washer, so that's fine. But yeah, so those are out. And so the last thing down here to do, I actually have to drain the oil today, but would be these 4 bolts. I believe all 4. Might just be the front 2, but I might as well do all 4. Well, let's see. Yeah, these connect to the transmission too. So all 4 of these bolts have to be loosened. They don't have to be taken off, but they do need to be loosened, so that, let me show you up here, so that when we lift the engine, these studs right here that come out of the engine mounts, so that those clear the frame. The one thing to note about these, so you know, if you wanted to, so there's 2 bolts, one here, the other one is way up in there somewhere, but you know, obviously it's a lot easier to just take the engine mounts with you, so that's why those are undone. So mine were already undone for some reason, which is pretty questionable, but yeah, 1 bolt there and 1 bolt there for your engine mounts. So yeah, for me specifically right now, so very specific situation for me right now is this thing right here, this stud, which doesn't clear the turbo, because usually, from what I've heard, you don't need to take the turbo off to dismount the engine. And the problem here with this bolt not being able to clear this is, let's think about this. So the turbo is attached to the engine, so I need to, because of these studs down here, I'm gonna need to lift the whole thing, angle it up, so that's not gonna change the relation between those 2 things. I'm gonna lift the whole thing up, and then I'm gonna start pulling the engine forward. So when I start pulling the engine forward, this is gonna get caught on this bolt, pushing it inward, and so I get like 1/8 of an inch forward before that runs into there, and this is just pushing against the engine again. Alright, so we're coming to the end here. So I've got a hoist that I got, Harbor Freight, 1 ton, and then we've got a load leveler here. You don't need one of these to pull an engine. It makes it easier though. So we're about to get down to the wire here. One of the things I did that I didn't film, let me grab it right here. I took out the O2 sensor on the passenger side. Most people will recommend that you do this, this right here. So on this model year, the O2 sensor connects Sorry, I don't have my headlamp on. The O2 sensor connects on the passenger side down there in the exhaust manifold. It comes off of the harness where the coil packs connect. It's convenient because on this car, yeah, I have the fenders off. So that's what the hole it comes out of. If you do this though, be very careful, especially if your car is rusty like mine. It's really easy to strip. So you're gonna want to use, I believe I used a 7/8, and you want to disconnect this first and then thread the, you know, the circle end of your wrench over it. And that'll get on there, and then make sure you don't strip it. It is quite the elbow grease needed to get it off, but the reason why you want to get it off, I'll show you right here real quick. It comes out literally like right in the middle, but if you just look down in there, it's very narrow clearance. Literally the end of the plug looks like underneath this brace right here. So if you can get this out, do. And if you can't, be very careful in watching it, because you're gonna probably bonk it at least once up against the side of the frame as you pull the thing out. So there's that. Alright, so I got the lift set up. I am going to, real quick, before I actually do this, I think I'm gonna move this one maybe two out. But so look at this. Just barely got enough clearance to get the hoist where I want it. But so I'm gonna do this a little weird and not the way you're supposed to. But so usually people do one of two things. They'll take off the whole intake and mount off of 4 of the bolts, so you can use 4 of these chains instead of just 2. Or they'll get really big washers, put a bolt through here and use that. And then what most people do is they use like what they say is the like heat shield mount back here. The thing for this year model though is that the heat shield mount is this little metal thing that comes off of your turbo, and I really don't want to pull up on the turbo, so I'm using this bolt right here. It was empty to begin with, so perfect spot. It's, you know, near the center of the weight, just a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna use that. Obviously these 2 bolt holes are a lot smaller than what some other people are using, but it should be fine. You'll find out if not. So yeah, so I'm gonna pop this 2 over, and then I need to pull my power steering and my AC pumps off to the sides, and then start getting this lifted up a little bit, and then jack up the transmission, and then hope for the best. Let's do it. Behold, the beast is out. I'm probably gonna move it in a sec just so I'm not dangling an engine right over the front of the car and like break it. But this reveals some cool things. Like we got this Perrin up pipe. I didn't know we had that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so yeah, the thing that was giving me trouble is I couldn't really tell that much how high we had to go to get clearance from those two motor mounts. So your motor mounts are where are they? This one right here, and then over here on this side there's your other one. I don't know if they're broken or not. Maybe they are. Maybe they're supposed to wiggle like that. But so those are out. And then the thing that was giving me the biggest issue was these two pins right here. These alignment pins that go into the bottom of the the back of the engine where it mates to the transmission. So boom, it's out. It's out. We did it. Good job. Give yourself a round of applause. It does help to have someone else though. With this one specifically, you could have taken the hood struts off, and I think you can probably push this back a bit further. You could do that, or just have a hoist that doesn't have as many chain links, if you're using a different kind of leveler. So one of those two options would be fine. Yeah, the third option, I guess if you, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, those are options to clear it. And behold, we got our EJ255 out of the engine bay. But yeah, so what I had to do, I don't know if I'll put it on video, but I had to have my wife help me. And so when I was, so when we started maxing out there, here on here, what I had to do was have one of us push the engine forward to give us clearance from this front part right here, to give us some clearance there so we can move the crane back so that we get space up here, and then we can lift it higher until we got this the bottom of the oil pan and the headers on the side, or the the exhaust headers, clear of the engine, or of the engine bay. So there you go. Have fun.